Hello and welcome to our second community update for the Rogue Prince of Persia. This one is all about how we made the game really feel like a Prince of Persia game with the controller in your hand. The action, the platforming, the wall run. We want you to feel like you're in a constant state of flow, with no interruption between traversal and combat. This will need some mastery from you of course, but we have given you all the tools you need to feel like you are the prince himself. So let's start with the obvious one, the wall run. A classic Prince of Persia move, the wall run is key to the prince's movement and combat strategy. It allows you to avoid traps, move between platforms over plummeting drops, escape groups of enemies when the odds are against you, maneuver yourself into an advantageous position before attacking, and to get to areas that seem completely out of reach at first glance. You can wall run horizontally, vertically and diagonally, but not downwards. But if you're worried about falling onto a big old pile of spikes, then have no fear. The prince can slow his descent by sticking his dagger into the wall, if there is one of course, allowing you to avoid traps or falling straight into bad situations. This one isn't exactly a Prince of Persia move, but it looks cool. So what happens if the wall is too long for a wall run? Well, there's usually some handy poles around that you can grab onto or perch on. Use these resting spots to stop and scout your next move, or, by timing your next jump right, bound and swing from pole to pole in a speedy whirlwind of acrobatics. I'll let you guess which one is more fun. There's also the other wall run. You know, the one where you run up vertical walls, the middle child. We should really find a name for this one. But anyway, this allows for quick vertical climbing and also doubles as a way to get a horizontal boost at the end as you backflip off the wall to the next spot. The dash is a dash. Use it to get yourself out of a tight spot, out of a bomb's radius, or to close the distance to an enemy. If you dash towards an enemy when close enough, the prince will dodge over that enemy's head, putting himself behind them and ready to go to town on their unprotected back. The eagle-eyed ones of you will notice a similarity to a move in another Prince of Persia game. Fine, it's basically the Vault from the Sands of Time. So, that's the movement set. Now, what about the combat? Well, there'll be a lot of it, so we provided numerous options for you to manage the groups of enemies. They'll be wanting to stab you in delicate bits, bonk you on the head, or just smash you to a pulp. We're not going to run through the specifics of each weapon, but rest assured that there is something for everyone. We have quick, stabby weapons, weapons you can throw, heavy weapons, and of course the twin daggers that you've seen everywhere already. Each one has a combo, as well as a special attack. So it's not just a question of mashing the attack button in every situation, unless you want to of course, so we're not your boss. Each weapon is based on something that was around in a rough time period that we've based the game on, with some artistic liberties of course, and more will be added during early access too. The prince can also use tools. Tools are way more exciting than they sound. We just didn't want to use the term secondary weapons because it doesn't 100% fit this pool of items. These items have charges that are used up with each use. You can refill them by hitting enemies. There are classics like a bow and a chakram, but you will unlock others that allow you to try something different. You can find ones that pull enemies towards you, pull yourself forward, or jump up into the air and smash down. I mean, who doesn't love that? Switch between tools as you find them in a run to adjust to how your loadout is evolving or just how you want to play, and you can do the same with the primary weapons too. Just like the primary weapons, more tools will be added during early access. Sometimes even the prince can get overwhelmed with enemies. At this point the kick can come in very, very handy. At its simplest, it allows you to push an enemy backwards to give you some breathing space, but it is so much more than that. It allows you to Sparta kick an enemy into oblivion, or a trap, or spikes. As if you needed any more reason to kick an enemy, it also has the added bonus of stunning the enemy if it is kicked into a wall. Kick an enemy into another enemy and they are both stunned, leaving them insanely vulnerable to a follow-up attack. Finally, kicking an enemy onto a shielded enemy, who you will quickly learn to hate, breaks their shield instantly, which would otherwise take precious time to break. So yeah, the kick is kinda useful. Here is the dive attack, and yeah, okay, it isn't very Prince of Persia-y. It just feels great to use and lets you both stun enemies and break shields at the same time. And again, the speedrunners will find this very handy. On top of all that, there are also the Medallions. These aren't a combat move, but they do enhance your fighting moveset. Medallions are triggered by a wide variety of things, such as kicking an enemy or wall running above them. They then either apply effects to enemies like damage or slowdown, or they can affect you with something like healing. You can only use 4, and they can upgrade each other depending on where you slot them. Upgraded weapons can also trigger effects that medallions are triggered by or interact with. So there's lots of synergies and builds for you to explore, but we don't want to go into specifics here, we want you to discover that for yourself. As mentioned before, this is just the start of early access, so there'll be more weapons, tools and gameplay elements added in the future. This is just a base for the game to build on. Hopefully you can see how much we worked on making the flow between traversal and combat as seamless as possible. You really should feel like going through a level is one big fluid movement, with pauses for healing of course. But there is always room to make things even better, and your feedback will be crucial to how we move forward, so we hope you will be able to join us on a journey through early access. We'll be back next week with a dive into the music and art direction of the game, so don't miss that one.